Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
So glad you're with us for the Wednesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. And boy, do we have plenty to talk about today. The Democrats, or at least one in the House of Representatives, already trying to file articles of impeachment against President Trump. And we're, 2.5 weeks, not even into this presidency. We've also got some curious information coming up from the audit of the U.S. Agency for International Development. But obviously, what we're going to talk about first is what we heard from the White House last night as the president stood alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We got a little bit of a preview of this when they were sitting together in the Oval Office yesterday, and Trump was talking about moving the 1.8 million people still in Gaza to other countries. None of those other countries want them. Egypt and Jordan have been very clear about this, but Trump says they still need to go somewhere because they're not going to stay there. And then that led to this comment from the podium, a prepared statement, mind you, last night at the White House.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
Now, Jim, the reaction to this has been quite interesting on a number of different levels. First of all, the idea of U.S. boots on the ground in Gaza for any reason any time in the near future seems to be something that we would not be supportive of, and Trump's supporters would not be supportive of if any other president in recent memory had done such a thing. Some people are saying, well, this is great. This is the end of the two-state solution, quote unquote, which was always a pipe dream of the internationalists and would never provide Israeli security. Others are saying, no, this is another Trump negotiation tactic. He's trying to get the Egyptians and the Saudis to play ball because they're not going to want America to have a foothold there or a bigger Israel or what have you. And so is this the opening salvo? Is this something that he's actually pursuing like a real estate developer in one of the most volatile parts of the world? Or is it something else?
Greg, longtime listeners know I have characterized myself as never Trump. I've not voted for him. I think of myself as being generally critical, even though I sometimes agree with his policies. I think we can mark it February 5th, 2025, that comes to an end. This is the best idea Donald Trump has ever had. And I don't understand all of these conservatives who say they support the president, who all of a sudden are like, whoa, I don't know if I'm on board with this. Why can people not understand? The only way to end the forever wars is to actively go out and conquer, annex, and own the Gaza Strip. Everybody understands this concept. Like, once we own everything, everyone will get along in the Middle East. The president assured us he's spoken to every world leader, and they love the idea. They may not be saying something publicly, but I'm sure privately they all love it. And as somebody, I was putting out my defense. My MAGA hat is on order. I love this. I'm tired of these mealy-mouthed politicians like Dick Cheney not having the nerve to do what is needed to enforce America's will on the Middle East. I am tired of George W. Bush saying, oh, we have to work with the rest of the world. No, we need some cowboy unilateralism. We need an American president who will come out and say, we are doing this. Now, some people, how are we going to pay for this? First of all, why does money matter? Money's never mattered for anything else. Now you're saying, oh, he needs permission from Congress. Wait, we can put RFK at HHS, we can put Tulsi at DNI, but now you're saying he needs a permission slip from Congress just to annex some of the most contested land in the entire world? No, I don't think so. The role of Congress, established under our Constitution, is to be a bobblehead doll nodding to whatever the president says. This is a terrific idea. I can't wait to see it get started. And I'm just fed up that so many Republicans who say they stand for MAGA, make America Gaza's administrator. MAGA is what, I have a dream of Mara Gaza. I have a dream of the French Riviera built. And as Trump said yesterday, we will get help from the Saudis, even though they're currently saying they're not going to kick in one dime to this entire project. I had put this out on Twitter. Somebody had responded, Jim, It's not going to cost America much. All we have to do is provide the security. And I think if there's anything we've learned from Iraq and Afghanistan, it's that Muslims and Arabs love it when America comes in and says, we run this place now. They're known for their easygoing cooperation in circumstances like this. So this is great. God bless you, Mr. President. And I will stand with you against all the fair weather friends who say they stand for America first. This is America first by making the Gaza Strip America first.
Jim, that was epic. So what's actually going to happen here?
Oh, no. Trump said it. It's not going to. Okay. I could go on for this like all day, and I'm having so much fun. Alluding to stuff we'll discuss in the second martini. Okay, I assume your interpretation you mentioned earlier, which is that like Trump sees this as an absolute mess of a disaster area and doesn't want to deal with it, but has figured out the best way to get the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the rest of the Arab world, and Europe maybe to come in and say, we will fix it up, is for Trump to say, I'm doing this all by myself. And for them to, oh my God, we need a better idea. We need, and this will get everybody rushing to say, you don't need to do that, Mr. President. We've got something else. My other favorite part was the response of bibi Netanyahu standing next to him in the press conference, because they turned to Netanyahu, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was like, sure, why not? Let's go with that. Let's... Netanyahu did not seem, roaring with like, let's try it. Everything else hasn't worked out. Let's go with this and see where it goes. Again, I suspect this is not actually the plan. The irony will be the sort of thing you could, but I understand Breitbart.com, which has been railing against forever wars going back to the Bush days, is now saying this is absolutely terrific and we need to send U.S. troops to take over the Gaza Strip. Yeah, these people can turn on a dime. Orwell would be like, well, that's a little scary right there. So my suspicion is this does not come to fruition. By the way, a warning for all of our neoconservative listeners. If it lasts more than 4 hours, contact a doctor.
They're the most conflicted right now.
Right? Like,
the Bill Kristols of the world. Yeah.
I have decided. Yeah, okay, let's go, I'm with you, Mr. President. Let's go. And let's see where this goes. So in practice, this would be a terrible idea. And by the way, somewhere, if he's still with us, Joe Biden is saying, all I did was send a peer. And Trump says he's going to build resorts and hotels and casinos, probably a strip club or two. We know those, the Muslims love those. And we're just going to, it's going to be great. It's going to be the French Riviera. I doubt any of this comes to fruition. But it's kind of, I had been frustrated by certain things with this administration. And then yesterday this news broke, and I just felt like the comedian in Watchmen, it's all a joke. And so I just kind of start laughing and decided to be very happy with this. So God bless you, Mr. President.
Yeah, that's what we learned from the first administration, and the early part of this one is like, okay, that's the opening salvo. Where's it go from here? So a lot of people have said, it's a beautiful area, potentially, had it been developed right. But of course, it's been a contested and disputed and kind of a war zone for a long time. A lot of people would point to Ariel Sharon, who's no longer here to defend himself, of course, for giving it over back in, 2005, now 20 years ago. That clearly didn't play out very well for Israel. I don't know what's going to happen there next, but I doubt it's going to be exactly what we heard yesterday.
Well, just one last detail: when we annex the the Gaza Strip and make it America, everyone living there would presumably become American citizens, or at least American green card holders. And so I don't know about you, as I watch the hostage release videos and I see the crowds of Gaza Strip residents around those hostages, I can't wait for those people to become Americans. I think finally, this is the Trump message, which is that anybody can become an American. We welcome immigrants, and all over every angry Palestinian is going to be able to come to the United States. Just doesn't get any better, Greg. That's the best possible outcome of this entire thing.
Okay, last question on Netanyahu. Do you think he actually sees this as, oh man, this would be awesome to not have a threat coming from our west, or man, this guy's something else? Probably
more of the latter, but he certainly wasn't going to contradict Trump in what was otherwise a mutual tongue bath of a press conference. And I think genuinely, because there are no really good or easy solutions for the Gaza Strip, I think actually Netanyahu is probably being honest of, sure, let's try this. Let's see where this goes. And not expecting it to develop into beach resorts and everything looking terrific. But what if you dangle that prospect in front of Palestinian society? Are there Palestinians who say, ooh, I like that. I like that prospect more than another couple of years of having all of our foreign aid money spent on digging tunnels under, Gaza and rockets and acquiring weapons from the Iranians and things like that. So one is put the idea out there and see if Palestinian society is receptive to it. Considering the degree to which they have encouraged their young people to grow up to be suicide bombers, I don't know if that society is capable of making that transition or that reform. I'd love to see it happen. And who knows? We'll see what happens. But I think bemused might be the term I would use for Netanyahu's expression as Trump laid this out during the press conference.
All right. Well, if you're a bit confused by what you're seeing in Washington, or you just need a better start to this year than in previous years, try BetterHelp. The 3 Martini Lunch is sponsored today by BetterHelp. And right now, they're kind of focusing on relationships. They can be really, really good. They can be complicated, or in some cases, they can be incredibly harmful to you. And so we hear all the time about, oh, that's a red flag, stay away from them. What about the green flags? What are the things to look for in people, whether they're close to you or just people you happen to meet, that could be a good person, a good influence in your life? And so if that's an area that you struggle with or would just like more clarity on, try BetterHelp.
BetterHelp is fully online, which makes a therapy affordable and convenient and serves more than 5 million people all around the world. You can access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. And you can easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost.
Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/3ML to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/3ML. All right, Jim, on to our second martini now, and this deals with USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development. Obviously been in the news a lot. A lot of these personnel have been placed on leave, but as DOGE keeps going through the data there over at USAID, we keep finding out more and more bizarre ways that our tax dollars have been spent. Caroline Leavitt over at the White House the other day was talking about tens of thousands of dollars in places in South America and Africa putting on trans musicals and operas and, millions on DEI in Serbia for some reason. But the one that we're going to talk about today is your tax dollars going to media outlets, some here in the United States and some overseas. For example, Politico in recent years has received a total of $32 million. The most recent one was $8.1 million. They, for some reason, didn't make payroll yesterday. Whether that's a coincidence or not, we don't know yet exactly. But it's not just Politico. The New York Times, $3.1 million, and the BBC, $3.2 million, which makes USAID the second biggest fundraiser donor for the BBC. So, Jim, we talk about state-run media. The government really doesn't belong giving money to domestic or international media outlets. Maybe I'm being naive about this, but it certainly seems bizarre.
Greg, if you'll permit me to step back a bit on the issue of USAID, because I've written about this a couple of times, tweeted about it a couple of times, and the upshot is the world hates me. Because I've made the argument that USAID does some important stuff and some good stuff when it comes from aid to hospitals in Israel, considering the topic of our first martini, malaria treatments, all kinds of disease control, rebuilding schools in Mali. There was a terrible civil war there. I think we spent $5 million for that in over a 5-year period. That seems like a drop in the bucket and probably builds us some goodwill over there. But if people don't want to, I also think if you want to prevent people from El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Guatemala from coming here, it's probably a good idea to fund programs that when people get returned, help them find jobs and get job training so they can work down there and don't want to come up here. But you know what? We have different ideas about, people can have different agreements about what foreign aid is worthwhile. Elon Musk is not taking the argument, and he specifically said he doesn't believe that there's a worm in an apple. He's the bowl of worms. He has argued we are putting USAID into the wood chipper. He has said that USAID is evil. Now, I don't think USAID is evil. I think there's a whole bunch of nonsense. I think the DEI projects in Serbia, I think the funding of the plays in Ireland. Isn't Ireland known for its playwrights? Don't you think they'd be able to pay for that kind of stuff themselves? They spent 14 travel writers to Kazakhstan to help promote the Kazakhstani tourism program. If the Borat movie couldn't help them, I don't think anything is going to help them do it. So there's a lot of nonsense in the USAID budget. I don't agree. I just say don't get rid of the malaria programs. Don't get rid of the good stuff while you're, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This has been deliberately misinterpreted by a whole bunch of people to believe that Jim says everything USAID is doing is okay, which is not the case at all. But anyway, looking at this particular expenditure, Some of it you could say, oh, okay, well, this is, subscription costs. And by the way, subscription costs to Politico Pro cost between $7,000 and $11,000 a year. That was 2 years ago. I've also seen other ones saying it's, like in the neighborhood, it's a 5-figure cost. Now you get more than one person is able to use that. But I just want to point out, like, Greg, how many people share their Netflix passwords?
I wouldn't pay $100 for that, but go ahead.
All right, I just want to point out that right now, National Review Plus is $1 a week and looks like a bargain compared to this. So I'm sure Politico Pro has a whole bunch of like really great insider information, but is it worth $10,000? And here's the thing, how many people in the private sector find that those subscriptions worthwhile? Some of this you'd say, okay, well, this is subscription fees. Again, that's an extremely high subscription fee, and it's very fair to ask all of those employees who have these subscriptions, is this really worth the $10,000 or whatever you're doing? Of the $8.2 million that have been paid out to Politico since fiscal year, it looks like it really started in fiscal year 2020. So 3.82 is listed under newspapers and periodicals, which makes me think that's the subscription fees. Now, that's $4 million over like a 5-year period. That's still a lot, right? But what really baffles me is $1 million for IT and telecom business application. Now, is this somebody in the federal government using a different code and it's the same product and we're just, got two different labels for it? I don't know. Is this, one of them is for about $862,000, support administrative information. $326,000 is for, quote, education, training, general. And $310,000 is for support, professional, other. Now, first of all, I'd like some more information on what these categories are, because like support, what is that money going toward? But secondly, why is the federal government spending so much money on Politico for this? Like the subscription to the actual, website, fine. Okay. Lots of people would say I need that for access for particularly in the press office, might find it really useful to have a subscription for the publications of all that they're, providing information to. On all this other stuff, what are you getting for this money? Where is this money going to? And it probably would be a good idea for Politico and BB. By the way, to the best of my knowledge, National Review has not received a dime from the federal government.
Same for us. Yep.
Same for Radio America. And as far as I know, the Washington Post as well. Of course, nobody bothers to share any financial numbers with me. But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with the federal government having a subscription to a publication. And there's nothing wrong with the federal government purchasing advertising if they got to advertise some, I noticed that the U.S. Border Patrol sponsors a rodeo team. I don't know how much that costs them to do that. Apparently, they think it's worthwhile for recruiting. We could argue about whether that's worthwhile spending, but fine, Some of this stuff is in a gray area. Some of this other stuff, what IT services are you getting from Politico? Is this, I can't get the website to work? How do you, we're going to charge you to get it to work? This is a giant glaring question, and I think it is more than fair to ask. I would say direct your questions to USAID, except USAID apparently isn't going to exist anymore. It's going to be under the State Department. And we should also point out, this isn't just from USAID. This is also from other federal agencies, including Health and Human Services, Department of the Interior, Department of Energy, Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, et cetera. Again, sounds like everybody feels the need for a subscription. If it's the $100 a year, $200 a year, whatever it usually is for a newspaper subscription, fine. If it's $10,000 a year and you got a whole bunch all throughout the office, well, then I think there's a lot more fairer questions to be asked about that.
Definitely. Get a bargain rate, at least a major bargain rate. And why are
You're buying them in bulk, right? If you can do this at Price Club or Sam's Club, why can Politico not give you a deal on that?
Yeah, and a couple things to add to that. First of all, a lot of these NGOs, which are facilitating the movement of people to the U.S. border, which is incentivizing people trying to get to the U.S. border and then inside the country, moving them around to different parts of the country. These NGOs are awash in cash as a result of taxpayer dollars funneling to them through USAID. And so taxpayers are literally funding the erosion of their security and their sovereignty as a result of these policies. And another big problem here is something that Senator Ernst mentioned, is that in her role in the Senate, she tried to get transparency on all this stuff from USAID, and they kept stonewalling her. And so that's why this is a huge shock right now, is because it's actually coming out where they've been throwing up roadblock after roadblock. And guess what? Now that the truth is coming out, people are figuring out what's been going on all along, and they don't like it.
One last point, Greg, that I think is really important that every listener should kind of underline in their minds. 1 year of the National Review print magazine and a year of NR Plus is only $75 right now on the website.
Now that is a deal.
Now, that's a bargain. That's a deal. No one's complaining about those expenditures, and I have no idea. I imagine some government agencies subscribe to NR, but probably few and far between. Probably Pentagon, law enforcement, all the good ones.
You know what a subscription to the 3 Martini Lunch costs you? Nothing.
Yeah.
Which maybe you're getting what you pay for, but
you cannot complain. You're overcharged.
Exactly right. It's a very good deal. It's a very good deal. But okay, so whether you're a business that had been getting money from taxpayers, or you're just seeing interest rates uncertain, inflation, you're not sure what's going on with that. Your business could be in a little bit of flux right now. But there are certain steps you can take to make sure that as much as you can control is, in fact, under control. And for more than 38,000 businesses, they have future-proofed their operations with NetSuite by Oracle, the leading cloud ERP platform. It integrates key business functions like accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one seamless system.
Closing your books in days, not weeks, means that you spend less time on your past reports and more time focusing on future growth. This efficiency lets you shift your attention from historical tasks to strategic initiatives that will drive your business forward.
Yeah, and some of my other work, I talk with business owners or small business experts, and they say you got to let these tools do the work for you. That's what they're there for, and it frees you up to do what you're most excited about. And there's no better place to do that than NetSuite by Oracle. In addition, you can download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/martini. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/martini. That's netsuite.com/martini. All right, Jim, kind of a symmetrical 3 Martini lunch today because we started with the president's comments about Gaza, and now we have a response to the president's comments about Gaza. You'll be shocked about this, Jim. There are Democrats in the House of Representatives who now want to impeach President Trump as a result of this. So, again, took less than 3 weeks for that to come up. Al Green, who is a big fan of filing articles of impeachment against Republican presidents, taking to the well of the House of Representatives and saying that what the president wants to do in Gaza is the equivalent of ethnic cleansing. And an injustice in Gaza is an injustice in America. And it's time to make the push for impeachment. Here's how he put it.
I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
I didn't realize he tied damsels to railroad tracks, but nonetheless, Jim, this is obviously something that Al Green does all the time. Dennis Kucinich used to do this all the time, too. It's not going to go anywhere. Obviously, Republicans control the House. It's going to be laughed at. But what do you make of the fact that after a few performative press conferences related to USAID and some other things, this is where the Democrats are already?
Greg, I've enjoyed Al Green's music for a long time. And I was really hoping he was going to break into dastardly deeds, done dirt cheap, dirty deeds, done dirt. But he did not, much to my disappointment. It is and I was hoping it would be just a natural follow-on to the time he howled at news reporters running for Senate in South Carolina. Oh, wait, that's another different Al Green. There are a lot of Al Greens running around right now. But this one is the congressman who is introducing articles of impeachment against Trump. And I think we can mark it once again, February 5th, 2025. The Trump presidency is over. The second term has ended because we all know once you introduce articles of impeachment against Trump, that removes him from office, right? We've seen this several times. Oh, that's right. That doesn't do anything because never mind introducing articles of impeachment, never mind impeachment hearings, never mind, the House voting to impeach and sending it to the Senate, which, by the way, isn't going to happen because Republicans control the House. It's a very narrow majority. You'd probably get every Democrat voting to impeach Trump right now. But, okay, let's say there's an outbreak of mono amongst House Republicans, and they don't have a majority, and Democrats get control of the House, and they say, quick, let's impeach him, and they impeach them. It's still not going to happen in the Senate, but fine, whatever. I'm reminded of the not-so-tongue-in-cheek cinematic classic, Clear and Present Danger, in which Jack Ryan, goes into the White House, to the Oval Office, yells at the elderly president who has jelly beans on his desk, which irritates me. And, how dare you, sir? And Harrison Ford points his finger. And nothing is more powerful in this world than Harrison Ford's finger. and the movie ends with the credits rolling with Jack Ryan testifying before the House. They don't even say it's an impeachment hearing. They just we just know that he's letting loose about Operation Reciprocity. And, and again, if you're going to run military operations against the drug cartels, you probably should get Congress to sign on. I don't think that necessarily the movie's message is wrong. It's probably a good idea to tell Congress if you're going to do stuff like this. But its idea is clearly, that's the end of that presidency. Clearly that's because once someone comes forward and testifies critically about the president from his own administration, that's it. That's the over. Guess what, Hollywood? No, that's not the way it works. Maybe back in the early 90s when they made the movie, it would be accurate case. So yeah, go ahead, Al Green. Let's see how this works. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him. There's no precedent. So yeah. We're going to set a record for most times Trump has been impeached. And it will end up having been, a standard issue way in which when the House is controlled by the opposition party, it expresses disapproval of the president.
Jim, we have obviously no idea what we'll be talking about tomorrow. We certainly didn't expect to be talking about this today. So anyway, have a good one.
Greg, yesterday was a long week.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Please subscribe at no charge to the 3 Martini Lunch. And tell your friends to do so as well. Do it on YouTube as well. Exciting stuff coming on the YouTube channel soon. Also, thanks for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. And follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Greg Corombos. Join us again on Thursday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.